All right, we're going to call this Board of Director meeting to order. I'd like to welcome everybody on Zoom and in person. Thanks for attending. We're going Zoom today because we had no agenda items. We only have one action item. That will be the minutes. And we just felt like it's a benefit to our administrators out and about, and also for KSHSAA to save some money possibly. So we appreciate you being on. I'm going to turn it over to Mr. Flaflake, our Executive Director.
Thank you, President Perkins. Certainly welcome to our board members. We're so glad that you're able to join us today, and very fortunate to be in Kansas, where on a Wednesday afternoon, we've got administrators across the state that are willing to join us for this important meeting today. Even though the action item is just an approval of minutes, we do have some updates that we want to provide for you as we move forward. First order of business that we often take care of is the roll call and attendance. I would note that for the record that we have our administrative staff in this room with me, along with President Perkins, our Vice Chair, Mike Castle, our Secretary Treasurer, Drew Tone, and Board Member Delvin Strecker. Our executive board has been here for the last 2 days, and those four have made the decision to stay as opposed to traveling and trying to get home before the Zoom started. We do have some others that are joining us from the road, and I do thank our executive board for that, for their participation. At this point in time, in order to take roll, instead of calling it on a name-by-name basis, I would simply ask that you do the following, and that is to go to the chat feature. And in the chat feature, please enter your name and your school. And we know the four people that are in this room, plus those that are joining us via Zoom. Please enter into the chat your name and school that you are representing. And then we will have a good record of our attendance. We have a record of attendance via the registration, and this will be our double check. I do recognize some of you may be mobile right now and joining us via a mobile phone. And if you're unable to chat at the end of this meeting, just simply send me a text that says that you are present and accounted for. By our registration, we show that we have 55 people in the meeting. We have 4 people here in the office. That's a total of 59. We have 2 of those that are joining us that are non-board members. One is our account that is hosting the meeting, and one is Mindy Nickel, the assistant to the association. So, Mindy, thank you for being here and all the work that you do to help coordinate this meeting. So, we're looking forward to taking the next steps today. Mr. President, with those 57 members present, we do have a quorum, so we are able to conduct business per the agenda.
Okay, thank you, Mr. Flaflake. As of Friday, we had no public forum to address us today. So the next thing that we're going to move on to is State Association remarks, and I'll turn that back over to Mr. Flaflake.
Very good. Thank you, sir. We're going to share a screen, and we'll get that poised and ready for you, and we'll walk through a short PowerPoint presentation to share the state of the association as we're moving forward today. It's the beginning of the school year and the beginning of our activity season, though some of our athletes may feel like, and coaches may feel like, they're already in mid-season form, and we appreciate all of the work of the administrators to help make that possible. That's where I certainly want to begin, is I want to say thank you to each of you for your leadership. Thank you for the work that you do each and every day. And it seems as if potentially our screen is, there we go. All right. I do want to say thank you for your leadership that you provide each and every day in your buildings, for the work that you do to be educational leaders, to provide so important, the support that our kids need, that your staff needs, so that they can make a difference for their students. I want to also thank our board of directors. You're not amazing. Right, you want to move me forward? We may have to go. There we go. I want to thank our board of directors for your willingness to go above and beyond and to represent your league or your respective group that is part of our association, our advisory group, whether it be one of our 5 advisory groups or as a local board member, as a middle school representative, as a state board member, we appreciate your service. I want to thank our executive board who have been here for the last 2 days and had a full agenda. The agenda the executive board considered certainly consisted of a number of important action items. Those included the receipt of reports from each of our administrators that detailed all of the good things that happened over the course of the summer. We had spirit camps across the state of Kansas. We had leadership camps through student council, a national camp, and our state camp. We had our Kansas leadership camp for KAY. We had rules meetings that our administrators conducted for our coaches, and plenty of opportunities for our students and our staff to engage. Our administrators also joined us for a rules meeting, a mandatory rules meeting over Transfer Rule 18, which was very well attended. So I want to thank the executive board for helping us navigate those and to provide feedback on those topics. The executive board also reviewed the regional administrator meeting and the agenda that will be coming for you in October. And we'll share that specific agenda as the days advance and the date that you will hopefully be able to attend that meeting. In addition to those things, the board did a number of auditing, bookkeeping procedures. They received our audit. It was a clean audit, and I thank our bookkeeper, Lori Brock, as well as our staff for being transparent in all of the financial transactions. We are headed in the right direction with all of the financials of the association. Our budget was also received and approved by our executive board, and we will share that budget with you at the end of the presentation. We will also email that budget to you because the executive board will approve the budget, but the whole board of directors receives the budget, and you'll see that we do have a balance, and I'll share that with you as we move forward. The next thing that the board did was conduct a league placement hearing. And sometimes those can be very contentious, but I truly send my sincere thanks to the administrators that were here from 4 different leagues that participated in the league placement hearing, as well as the administrators from Wichita Classical School and Wichita Central Christian Academy. 2 members of our association that asked for placement ended up being placed in the Heart of America League, and the cordial way in which that business was transacted is tremendously appreciated. Unfortunately, we've been in some of those hearings that don't always end in the same manner. This one was certainly well done, and I appreciate the leadership of Mr. Perkins as well as the leaders of those respective schools and leagues that were part of that. So as we begin today and we move forward with my report, that's a quick update as to what our board did over the past couple of days. They also were preparing for today's meeting. We have 21 brand new board of director members. They also approved the appointment of our last member, our most recent addition, Connie Reddick, the principal of Wichita Curtis Middle School. Connie, thank you for joining us on this board. Look forward to working with you and with you working with all of the other administrators from across the state. Our board focused in on the priorities of the association, and certainly we always begin by talking about student health. We move through the list that's there. We'll walk through some of those as we move forward. We talk about student health. We often talk about those environmental conditions and best practice. And this year, thanks to a grant from the National Federation of High School Foundation, every high school received a Kestrel wet bulb globe thermometer. That wet bulb globe thermometer helps keep student athletes safe or minimizes risk when they participate in the anticipated heat and high humidity of our fall season. Unlike just referencing ambient air temperature and humidity, the Kestrel and any wet bulb globe thermometer takes the entire environmental picture into consideration and looks at the impact of solar radiation, the angle of the sun, the wind speed, all of the factors that impact how quickly a body can cool. And we're grateful for our Sports Medicine Advisory Committee, our executive board, for approving the recommended best practice of following the guidance underneath the wet bulb globe thermometer procedure. Every high school has one. We have a grant in place that is asking for those to be provided at the middle school. And as soon as that is provided, we will certainly get those out to middle schools. That will be prior to next year's fall season beginning. So thank you to all that were part of that. We also talk about not just the physical health of our student athletes, but the mental health of our student athletes. And in this time, and more so than ever, it's so important that administrators and coaches are equipped not to solve the problems that kids may bring with them to school, but to identify those problems and provide connections to resources that will help move those students to a healthier position. We do have our long-standing mental health toolbox, but we have a couple of additions or several new additions to that in the form of mental health videos. These 5 videos are done by Kansans. They're done by members of our Sports Medicine Advisory Committee with special appearances by our student advisory team, kids from across Kansas, who are part of this process. We appreciate Sports Medicine Advisory, especially Dr. Annie Weiss of Kansas State University and Topeka 501's students who helped with the production of this. And these videos are available for you to use at the school level, at the league level, but even in a coaches meeting, these are ideal. They're 6 to 8 minutes in length. They cover topics that are very important for coaches and kids to have conversations relative to anxiety, relative to depression, relative to the student perspective of participation in activities. So all of those things are tools to use to help students move forward and to be in a position where they're in a healthy environment. One of the factors that we always talk about, or one of the topics that we always talk about, is sportsmanship and citizenship. That is an emphasis of the National Federation. It's an emphasis of the Kansas State High School Activities Association. In the next few weeks, you'll see a new release from the NFHS called Benching Bad Behavior. We're hoping that that can be a tool that will be useful in your work with kids, in your schools, member schools in your league, and member schools across our state family. So we're looking forward to that. As we continue to refine the expectations for sportsmanship, we know it's so important that the High School Activities Association environment is different than what you may see at the professional or the collegiate level and at the club level, because we have educators involved in this. And we often tell those spectators at our activities that we would not tolerate that in the classroom. We will not tolerate that in the bleachers, in the stands, at our events. So continue to hold your stakeholders accountable. You have our support, and let us know how we can help support you in that regard. Sportsmanship is a lesson that our kids need to learn when they're in our school programs. One of the points of emphasis for the association is diversity, equity, and inclusion. This past year, our staff, all 20 staff members here at the office, participated in 8 ways to support diversity, equity, and inclusion for all. It was an opportunity provided by the NFHS. They provided the resources, the textbooks for us to use, and we did that over an 8-week period, did that book study. The National Federation has opened up a national book study, and it is not too late to sign up an individual in your school or community, a team, or an entire coaching staff. So you're certainly welcome to participate in that. There's been information in our weekly announcements relative to that particular way to strengthen the diversity of your staff, the understanding of those participants in your program. Additionally, we often talk about diversity, equity, and inclusion, but we know that diversity, equity, and inclusion is not limited just to race, but there's also diversity relative to a variety of factors. We seem to be stuck here. Brent, if you'll hit that advance for me, I'm not sure why we're not moving. We celebrated Title IX this past year, and we're very pleased to have trailblazers that we were able to count on to come back to our activities and tell their story. We did that in print. We did that with images at our events as real live examples for our student athletes of the history, of the shoulders of the giants they stand upon as they participate in activities today. Those like Lynette Woodard and Jackie Stiles are just a couple of the examples of those that came back and participated in presenting the game ball, or opening tee shots in golf, or first pitches in softball, or handing out awards at the state championship track and field meet. But the story doesn't end with the celebration of 50 years of Title IX. It continues across Kansas each and every day as girls are provided the same opportunities as boys to be part of their school team, to be part of a program where they are valued and they have opportunities. Additionally, it's not just gender and not just race, but it's also those with physical disabilities. We're very pleased to have the opportunity for those with physical disabilities and wheelchair athletes to participate in our state track and field championship meet. My hat's off to the administrators in the Wichita City League who helped get that started, and Mr. Lentz for his hard work to help make sure that was a perfect fit for our state championship track and field meet. We also had our first year of unified bowling. It continues to grow with the addition of another dozen schools this year. We're excited to see where unified continues to go across the state of Kansas, but those with cognitive disabilities now are partnered with as athletes with students in their school that come alongside to help them with this activity, but more important, to help them feel part of that school and be part of that school culture and community. So we're grateful for those students. We're grateful for the administrators and coaches who support that. A focus of the association certainly continues to be officials. While our numbers continue to increase, the trajectory is positive, we're not where we need to be. We're ahead of last year, but last year was a low year. We need to continue to have officials. We have dedicated a staff person to be in charge of that, an administrator who will be responsible for our officiating services. And Fran Martin will lead that charge this year and has already done good work in that regard in her final year of working at the association. And she'll leave us in a good place as she enters retirement and we hire a new administrator for official services as we move forward. But certainly across the state, especially in certain pockets and in certain activities, we have need for people to stand in the gap so that we can have judges for debate. We can have adjudicators for music. We can have officials for soccer, baseball, softball, football, and volleyball. They are so necessary. It's important for us to tell our story, and we're able to take a huge step forward. And kudos to Jeremy and his team for bringing us KSHSAA Covered, which tells the story of high school activities across this state. Not necessarily those championship teams and championship individual performers, but rather those often unheralded students who continue to do the right things and have overcome adversity just to be able to participate. So we were able to do that. And not only did we honor those by telling their stories, we had for the first time ever scholarships that were awarded, 35 times $2,000 across the state of Kansas. And we'll be looking for the next version of that soon after the first of this next year. As we told that story, we know that just on the website, we had tremendous impact, and the number of folks came to the website to see the stories of the students that were being featured. We also know that it was beyond just the KSHSAA Covered website, but we had a tremendous social media presence with Facebook and Twitter. And you think about 1.6 billion people reached, and you talk about 7.5 billion impressions over what was simply a 3-month period. So that's an impressive showing for this association. There is a hunger for our communities to see kids in positive settings being featured. And this is what KSHSAA Covered allows to have happen. A couple reminders for you as I wrap up my report or prepare for the final piece of my report, and that is classification count day is coming. Please remember that September 20th is count day. If you have any questions on that, please contact Mr. Lentz in the office, contact me or Mr. Unruh at the office. We're happy to get that to get your questions answered by the end of the day on the 20th, not before and not after, but on the 20th. Please complete online ADM 3. I referenced earlier our regional administrator meetings and the topics that were selected for discussion and for a vote. It is so important that we hear from our member schools. This is an opportunity for our staff, for myself, and our leadership, our governing boards to be in front of our member school leaders. And we'll bring to you a list of topics that we would like to have your input regarding status moving forward. It deals with any number of topics such as jamborees, as well as postseason formats and other topics that have been of interest that often come out of the KSHSAA or the KCA and need a broader audience that was part of the initial referral to the association. So we look forward to meeting with you at the end of October here in our office starts the first meeting, and then we continue across the state. Please make every effort to attend those meetings. My final topic is really that which has been ongoing for the last few years. Over the last couple of years, we have really rolled up our sleeves and dug into finding out exactly what our membership wants relative to classification. Any amendment to Rule 5 is part of our handbook, goes through the process that is prescribed by our handbook. This particular item needed to go a little bit further than that because it's actually embedded in Kansas statute. Kansas statute indicates that we shall classify schools according to student attendance. Knowing that, we wanted to ultimately end up in front of the legislators sometime this next spring, and share with them the wishes of the membership. And the wishes of the membership were to take this particular proposal forward. This is a weighting factor that will be applied to member schools. It was first supported by our board of directors. It was next supported by a vote of our member schools. Today, this morning, the State Board of Education supported this, and we move it forward to our lawmakers to take place in meetings over the remainder of this school year after they reconvene in January. You as Board of Director members will receive with our other members later today a press release relative to this, and we wanted to make sure our board heard it first. So you do know what our next steps are relative to this particular process. We are asking simply for relief to Kansas Statute 727114, number A5. We are asking for the ability to implement the multiplier that has been talked about. That multiplier was designed by a work group that came in with that singular task to provide this product so people knew what they were voting on, but it was done after a series of meetings that included any number of stakeholders over an extended period of time, where we talked about all of the different options that occurred, whether that be a weighting factor, whether that be a reduction factor, whether that be a separate classification, or whether that was some other factor that we would use to make a difference in classification, because we know a population of our schools, 7% of our schools win 20+% of our championships. We're trying to make sure the playing field is level. So we had this move through the process. We're ready for next steps, and we'll continue to take those steps as we move forward with your input. The final thing for me is to share with you and to provide for you the budget that was approved earlier today by our executive board. I know you cannot read that fine print, but I would tell you that right under the UR screen sharing is a black number instead of a red number, which we had last year. And that black number is 158,000. And that would be what we anticipate to be above budget by the end of this year. We appreciate the wise stewardship of an administrative team here, as well as our member schools. We do everything we can to keep costs down for our member schools, as well as for those that come to our contests. And coming to a high school championship event still remains one of the best values you can find for the dollar. And we hope that we have full stands and full crowds for all of the athletes that are competing in our championship rounds, because our kids are worth it. We have individual champions, kids that work so hard each and every day to represent their school. And while they do that, they get better through that process. And whether they are competing for the very first time on a big stage and they are in that championship, or they don't even make it to the varsity team at their school, they are still successful when their lives are changed and they're connected to school administrators and they perform at a higher level academically and socially in your building. So we thank you for your support. We thank you for the opportunity to share this brief report with you, Mr. Perkins, because you know I can talk for a little bit, and this is a little bit shorter than normal, so we can thank Zoom for that. But again, we do all of this together, all of the membership across the state. Thank you for the work that you do in this regard.
All right. Thank you, Mr. Pfeiflich, for your presentation and the short presentation of a few minutes here. We appreciate that. Moving on, we need to move and approve the minutes of the April 29th board meeting.
President, I make motion we approve the minutes. This is Mike Castle.
Got a motion by Mike,
Second it.
second by Drew, to approve the minutes of April 29th, 22 minutes. Any discussion? If not, I believe there's a poll on your screen that you can vote on. I guess all of you in here. Everybody in this room in favor, right hand. Opposed, same sign. That's 4 for us, Brent. I don't shout it.
4 online.
56, we have 60.
With one text.
One text. So we have 61 yes, 0 no's. Motion passed. Just a reminder that our next Board of Directors meeting will be Thursday, April 27th here in Topeka, because we will have plenty to do that day. So make sure you plan to come to Topeka that day. I believe the meeting will start at 3 o'clock. So anything else, Mr. Pfeiffer? Thank you very much. Good. With that, I'll entertain a motion to adjourn.
Make a motion to adjourn.
Motion by Drew.
Second.
Second by Mike. Ready for that?
I have no poll for that.
Okay, no problem.
We're adjourned.
Thank you for being here today, and look forward to seeing you all on April 27th or before. Thank you.